as I was wandering around, I heard the song My Favorite Things from Sound of Music. And I don't honestly remember if the music was playing in here or if I heard it in my head. And between the fact of what was going on with our letting go of Barnes and Nobles on Route 17 and that song, My Favorite Things, I was like, wow, I'm being told where I need to go with this and what I need to talk about. So I went back and I think as a kid, I loved Sound of Music. So I remember that song. I remember embracing that show and everything. So I went back and I looked up the words, and of course I'm not going to sing it for you, but you know, it talks about my favorite things, and then it you know, goes through the lyrics, and there's a lot of them. And that one part, it says, when the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. And of course I am getting emotional again. And that brought me back to, again, this event of going to Barnes and Nobles and now knowing that this place is going to be gone. So what, of course, comes into my mind during this whole experience is most of us don't like change. And I am, number one, I am at the front of the line for somebody who doesn't like change and doesn't maneuver change very, very well. And I shouldn't keep saying that because then the universe hears that. But on top of it, you know, it makes you think, okay, well, is it actually that Barnes and Noble that really is affecting me? Is it that is my heartfelt, you know, oh my God, I have to let go of Barnes and Noble? And you start thinking about that and saying, well, what really is the underlying feeling that comes along with that? And again, and I talked about this before, it's about the connection to people. It's about the fact that that was a favorite place that Pat and I went, and we have had some crazy experiences there, but, and she's smiling in the back, but it was about what it meant for two individuals to be able to go to that place and just for 2 hours or 3 hours, just roam the books and just have fun and lose yourself in it, and then sit down and go, okay, what do you want to eat? Because that's the end of every good day, is what you want to eat. So that was always precious to us. And as I thought about this, I thought about all the places that have closed down that I'm now aware of. The Oakland Pizzeria in the town that we lived in, and up until 6 years ago, closed down. And I thought, oh my goodness, Oakland Pizza closed down. Now, was it that I loved Oakland Pizza? It had nothing to do with that. It was the memories that going to Oakland Pizzeria brought up. So, okay, you know, I'm very nostalgic. We all are, and especially as we're getting older. So, okay, Oakland Pizzeria is now gone. And then a couple of months ago, it might have even been last year, my son, who is now, who is now 42, said, Oakland Pizzeria closed down. And he seemed really upset and shaken by that and sad. And I thought, okay. And his wife kind of looked at him like, why was that such a problem for you? You know, I don't understand. And he said, all the times after we got back from baseball practice or we won a game, and the coaches would take us to Oakland Pizzeria, and the parents would join in, and there would just be a group of people, and it was just uplifting. And most of the time, it was after they won, hopefully, but it wasn't always. Sometimes it was after a loss, but it was just about people being together and those memories from that connection. So then I thought of one other place in Oakland. Ken always frequented Oakland Pharmacy. Yes, we got our prescriptions drugs from there, our over-the-counter drugs, but we also, it was a place of the most beautiful gifts and the most beautiful experience of looking through the cards and buying gifts. And Ken's favorite thing, somebody wrapped the gift for him. So he had no involvement other than, oh, this, she'll like this, and there you go. Those things are not about the pharmacy, about Oakland drugs. They're not about Barnes and Noble being the bookstore that, you know, oh my God, what now kind of thing. It's about the connections and the memory that you made. As Ken would take our little children to get a gift from mommy on Mother's Day and come back with my 90th mug that says best mother in the world. It was that experience that he had along with them. So that's what I was thinking about when we talk about even the song, My Favorite Things, those are the simple things in life, you know, the simple things that you want to embrace. And it's not about, I have to have this or I have to have that. It's about what it did, how it touched your heart, how that place touched your heart, or any particular thing that came from that pharmacy. So I was thinking about that and saying, well, good. I like that thought that it's not that I just can't deal with change. I mean, I'm not an insane person. Sometimes I'm not exactly as grounded as I should be, but it's not about just change. It's about holding on to those things, those memories that were so near and dear to you that were connected to people. And that's what this is all about. So I was looking up things about Barnes and Nobles. I don't know why, I just felt it was important to investigate this a little bit more. And Barnes and Nobles actually started in 1886. And it was, the founder was an Arthur Hind, I believe his name is. And it was called Arthur Hind and Company. And it was then in Cooper Institute, so that's Cooper Union area. So that was the first start of that. Then shortly later, I think 1886, a young man came on board. I think his name was Gilbert Noble, and he was a graduate of Harvard University. And they took him on as a clerk, and he worked his way up into a partnership. So then it was like with Hines and with Noble, and then later on, Noble bought out into the partnership, and another person came on, which was a son of a friend, and his last name was Barnes. And that's where in 1917, Barnes and Nobles became Barnes and Nobles. So I thought about that. And in thinking of that, the love and the passion that went into building a company like that, and offering up all of this ability to give books to people that would be meaningful and share space with people and everything else, and how from 1917 to the present, this place has become so common and has meant so much to so many people. Now, there are Barnes and Nobles that are going to stay open, so I don't want you to worry, but it's not going to be the same, because what we created at that Barnes and Noble was just such a special time. We have laughter times of going to the Barnes and Noble and deciding to sit there for quite a number of hours, when over the loudspeaker, a voice comes through saying there is a car with her windows open and it is pouring in her car. Guess whose car it was? Pat's. You know? So we're like, it's pouring. We can't go back out there now to close the windows because it's torrential rain. So as we got back to the car, maybe an hour later after that, we were bailing water out from her car. Again, what is that about? The memory of two people being together. And at that point, too late to worry about it now. We might as well enjoy our coffee. So these are the things, these are the connections that keep people strong, that keep people happy. So then I was doing a little bit of investigation on what you do when something is making you feel unhappy. You know, you're feeling sensitive about something. And they said, always find the laughter. Always find one thing, like when you're at your jobs and something isn't going right and you're just in that space where it's uncomfortable, you try to find one piece of laughter about something going on with that particular job, with that company, that just makes it go into a different dimension. And that's how I was like, oh, that day with that water was so fun. As we got out there, and I think Pat had a couple of towels that she was trying to carve up with. There was no way. I mean, there were puddles inside the car. So again, it's about those strong connections to people. So I like the fact of knowing that no matter what closes, no matter what ends, we will still always have that connection to the people who have meant the most to us, the people who have lifted us up when we didn't think we could take one more step in front of us, the people who have laughed with us so bad that you're like, wait, I can't laugh anymore because my side is splitting and my jaw is hurting me. That's what we need to all treasure, and that's what we do treasure. the day that we were leaving Barnes and Nobles, and I swore to Pat a week and a half ago, I was not going to buy any more books. I'm packing my car. I do not need one more thing. 5 books later, and with her discount, I actually walked in the door and said to Ken, I just bought a few other things, but hopefully we'll find space in the car for them. But again, the laughter that went through that. But we sat in the car that day for about 5 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes as we were getting ready to leave. And we looked at that building and said, this is going to be missed. Is it going to be missed because it's a beautiful building? No. Is it going to be missed because of all the books that were in there? No. It's going to be missed because of the times that we spent in laughter, in inspiration, in eating. I mean, we can't disprove, that, of enjoying just that time. So looking back, that day I felt sad after we left, and I saw how Pat was reflecting to that, because she goes a lot by herself, and then she'll go with Jeanette or myself or other people, and it just was meaningful to all of us. And I thought about the fact that the next morning when I woke up, I felt that little low mood. Oh, wow, where will we find that again? Now, of course, we can find it at church here. We can find it by going for a walk someplace, but where will we find what we shared there? So that morning I woke up and it was like, I'm not letting this go. I'm going to figure this out. So now all of a sudden that little became, well, I live in Ridgewood and there is a little mom and pop bookstore down the road. And there's a Starbucks that's right next to it. So if Pat comes into town or Jeanette or any of you guys, we can go to the little mama papa bookstore. We can't sit there, but we can go to Starbucks. And then Ken says to me, because he's so used to the way my brain works, Ken says to me, well, if you guys walk down to the library, he says you can go to the library on the side of the Ridgewood Library, happens to be a sitting area, beautiful little patio with tables and chairs underneath like an awning. And you could bring your coffee there. And you could sit there and you could take out books from the library, or you could bring your books from the mama papa bookstore with you. So all of a sudden, the sadness of the one loss. Okay, well, we're not going to be able to do this the way it became. How can we recreate this somewhere else? And why? Because nobody wants to let go of those precious moments with their friends or with their family. You want to savor them, and when it seems like that end comes to an end, you want to figure out another way to keep it going. You want another way for life to go on, maybe in a different way, but with joy. Keep finding that joy. So those experiences, and then of course, what I did want to point out is when I went to this book last night at the wee hours of 12 o'clock, and I'm looking for something to read you, when I read that, I said, okay, well, this was no coincidence that we went to Barnes and Nobles and found this book, because it's called Keep Believing, and it has some really wonderful inspirations. But I'm just going to read you that last paragraph again from what I read. Realize that people are the treasures in life, and happiness is the real wealth. Have a diary that describes how you are doing your best, and the rest will take care of itself. Again, it's about the treasures of the people. And I know I've talked about this before, and it's probably like beating a dead horse at this point, but no, it isn't, because we all know that in order to get through this lifetime, it's got to be about how we continue to rework our relationships, our whether it's friendships, whether it's family, whether it's our relationship with ourselves. And I have to be honest with you, I am always working on my relationship with myself. And that sounds so weird, but I can be my worst enemy, or I can be my pat on the back. And a lot of times I'm my worst enemy. And it's like, well, in my head, you could have done it this way and you could have done this. But it's about embracing our relationships, friends, family, self, and trying to figure out the best way to find our joy through all of this. So in coming to a conclusion of this, I don't know what your favorite places are, your favorite things. And something else I read said, for most people, they would give up, or they could release their most treasured possession to have a treasured moment with a friend that they will remember forever and ever. And I believe that's true. I believe that's true. At times when I look at the way our children maneuver things, they're a little bit more detached sometimes from people because they become more involved with, working from home. And forgive me for those of you who work from home. They're not out socializing the way perhaps we did in years gone by. And it becomes a little bit more self-focused. You girls, that's not the case for you because you're not kids anymore. You're sweet, lovely adults. And, so it's different for you. You've established those relationships. You've established your care and your love for each other. But sometimes I look at the generation at this point now, and I feel like, are you okay that I want to grab you and bring you closer and hold you and love you? Do you realize that relationships are more important than anything? And sometimes you can see that, but they're busy caught up in their life, so you don't always see it. We are now seeing it with our daughter again because of different things that's happened in our life recently, where all of a sudden now you can see she needs people more again, and you're being drawn in, and she's drawing you in. So it's these are our treasures. Our treasures are our relationships. I know I've said it before, but that's not to say that a precious moment at a Barnes and Noble, or a precious moment going out to eat, as sometimes we have done on Sunday afternoons after this. Those are the moments that are so treasures. Is it the Longhorn restaurant? No, it's not. Is it the West Essex Diner that's important? No, it's not. None of that. Even though the food may be great, the atmosphere at Longhorn may be adorable. They have the best, white sangria I have ever had, and I'm not a drinker. It's none of those things. It is what we felt when we were all sitting together sharing those moments. So I am going to release Barnes and Nobles because I know I need to accept change. I know we all need to accept change. I know I need to learn to let go of things, but never, ever will I let go of the people or the experiences or the heart connections with any of those people or with any of you. Because what I wanted to say to you is, this is a very, very small congregation, but this is a small, warm congregation of people who are just so loving and so caring. Not perfect. None of us are perfect. But when you look around and see on Zoom, maybe 10 people and maybe 15 or 20 people here, and you feel the love that is in this room and the compassion and the support, you know that nothing else is important as these connections. And so we release Barnes and Noble only to know that we will find another place to find that same connection that we had before. I think Ken's going to have a little harder time letting go of Oakland Drugs because he always needs a place that will wrap gifts, although he has found one in Glen Rock if anybody wants to know. But it is about what those places and what those people in those places have meant to us. So I'm going to thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that anybody who lives in the area of Barnes and Nobles on Route 17 will take your last venture over there and find some really incredible books like this one. And also to know, Pat had said one thing to me that I thought was really precious. I did read that Barnes and Nobles had been there for 28 years. I think you had said around that, and I read it. And even the mayor of the area is very sad about it closing down and everything. And Barnes and Nobles was bought out because the new landlord would not renew their lease because it was not enough money from them. What he didn't see in that was what that place meant to people, how much people connected with each other and shared with each other during that place. All they saw, and Pat had mentioned it too, is the money. And the facility is supposed to open up once again as actually a medical facility, which Pat said, one more medical facility. I think it's actually might be a senior care center. But then I thought to myself, if places like that stayed open and we found all the love that we needed there and found the joy there, maybe we would need less medical places over here. Because we'd be using our insight, our brains, our hearts, and our connection to people. And maybe we wouldn't need one more place to be taken care of as we age or we're ill. So please just treasure your relationships with people, no matter where it is, even if it's yep, I see it. Even if it's sitting in a park on a bench, or bringing coffee over to the library, just treasure the people, because it's not about the places, but it's about what those places created for you. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.